September the 8th. I told you, everyone is talking about Ireland, Ireland world number 1, France the hosts,
Northern Hemisphere.
Northern Hemisphere dominance. But I told you, New Zealand, itashangaza watu. Yes, people would say that they had a favorable kind of grouping. To some extent, I think the only true test they had was their first game against France, because that one I knew they would lose because it's the open game. But you see, 2019, South Africa lost to New Zealand and they still went on to win.
What I'm saying, the first time a team lost a group game and went on to win the Rugby World Cup or something like that.
I need to check my records.
I remember hearing that.
I need to check my records. But as much as we want South Africa to win, as I said, New Zealand, there's something about New Zealand. You can imagine these two teams faced off before the World Cup started. 35-7 was the result in favor of the Springboks. I feel the South Africans are slightly overconfident. I think they feel like they have won it. They are so certain that this is their 4th title. But remember, this is the All Blacks. Bottom line, think about it. Ian Foster is a coach who had been discounted by even New Zealanders. They wanted him out. There was even a lot of pressure because they had lost. Last year they lost so many games in the build-up to the World Cup. People didn't feel like they would go as far as they did, and they have.
Yes. And
for the team, they have played for their coach. And Foster is like, this is it. This is done. When he's done with this World Cup, he's done because he's being replaced by the Crusaders coach. So for him, he wants to say, okay, fine. Muli need out. Muli fikiria sezi fikisha team mpaka kwa final. I have.
Here's my question though. What works? Is it having before I get to what I think, is it having an easier run to the tournament, to the final, or having a tough run to the final? Which one works for you?
I'll go first. And I'll slightly maybe go a different route to what Bernard said. I agree with Bernard that South Africa having had a tougher run might count at some point in terms of fatigue, in terms of mental fatigue especially. But I think also having a tougher run, of course you beat whatever is in front of you. You can only beat what is in front of you.
True.
But yet again, having a tougher run can also count in terms of confidence levels. You've really beaten whoever matters, getting into the final. So yes and no, it counts and it doesn't count, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, look, the All Blacks have had a easy run to the final. Ricky, yes, I'm looking at you. They've had an easier run to the final. Who did they beat in the quarters? They beat Ireland, who, yes, world number 1 for 2 years. Yes, they cost me a jersey. But on a serious note, a team that has never been past the quarterfinals forever. They almost have a mental block. They just never go beyond the quarterfinals. Then in the semi, they played Argentina, who they really could have beaten with 12 men. They really could have. Like, they played, it was shui. The only serious team they met was France.
Yeah.
Who beat them?
And that was possibly understandable.
Like, the only team they met it's a high caliber. Of course, you will say Ireland, but Ireland, again, like I said, they just don't seem to, this World Cup thing seems to bother them. They just don't seem to know what to do to get past the quarters. So I wonder whether that's an advantage or a disadvantage. And I agree with Bernard, there's huge mental, you get fatigued because of playing at that high level. You saw it last Saturday. England were easily the better team. In South Africa, I think they were on such a high from beating France, it took them 70 minutes to calm down. So I wonder how that impacts them. However, and this is my hope, prayer. After what was bad, it was just a bad game. For 50 minutes, they were out of it. Then they somehow found their way. But of course, there are mitigating circumstances. The emotional high of the French game, the weather was terrible, which suits England, who play in that kind of weather all the time anyway. They called it wet rugby. Yeah. So,
see, the problem with wet rugby, people don't understand about wet rugby. For those who've played the game, the problem with wet rugby is, if you see the way you flow the ball, there's a way it spins. So it's not easier to do that because your hands are slippery. So the likelihood of trying to do the spin, you lose control of the ball. So you notice the error rate increases exponentially. Because the ball is very slippery. And then even your running it becomes a bit of a challenge, because even if you have boots, you're usually preferable to have spikes at that particular point because of traction when you're running, because it's very slippery underfoot. So it's really it normalizes everything.
So I wonder, I wonder whether those factors made South Africa play so badly versus England, and I wonder whether they will play as bad tonight, and like they will take it as a warning. And again, I borrow from Shakari Richardson. She ran in the semi in the 100, and she was bad. She was bad. She sneaked in as a first loser, but then in the final, she was able to now step
Do
up. Like she
something
was like,
about it,
where? That was bad. Final, she removed the nails. There was no joking around. She ran 10-6-5, won gold. So does SA behave like Shakari, or do they behave like Fedi or Manyala, who the more the pressure was cranked, we kept hoping for that turnaround and we never quite got it. Or Fred Kali, for example. That is my only question. My only fear, Bernard, is with the way they have picked their team.
Yeah.
I love the bomb squad. I'm not so sure about the 7-1